Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are about to commence the topic, which is the Heyam, avoidable, the class of avoidable, that is Duhkham. The human life, from time without beginning, has been endeavoring for getting freedom from sorrows and pains. In any generation, in any society, in any eon, any era, this has been major concern for mankind, as a matter of fact, for any living animal, living creature. That is to avoid any pain and sorrow. And having just now discussed about what is really sorrow for yogi, which is quite different than sorrow for we mortals. We mortals have sorrows having got engulfed into mundane gravities and mundane mire and mundane world, have been sunk into mundane mire. We have one concept of pain or Duhkham or sorrow. But then those who are spiritually evolved, what we call as yogis, jnanis, mahanubhavas, mahantas, these noble people, great people, have different concept of sorrow. Now we are textually, if you consider, we are going to look at the sorrow and pain of a yogi and how he is going to manage that. So about Duhkham, it has been great matter for inquiry in philosophical systems and in thought systems, in dharma. This has been major consideration for mankind, whether in mundane activity of life or whether practicality of life or little higher purpose in life, such as paramartha. This has been major consideration, identifying the sorrows and then avoiding the sorrows, preventing the sorrows, getting rid of sorrows, etc. And for that, the word Patanjali has opted is Duhkham. Now we will have to understand the connotation in Patanjali's mind for Duhkham and how it is different connotation compared to what we have. There is no one in the world who says, I do not know what is Duhkham. Either properly or improperly or sufficiently or insufficiently, everyone knows what is pain and what is Duhkham, what is sorrow. But then our idea of sorrow, concept of sorrow, the notion, the connotation is one. But with what Patanjali is dealing is totally different. That is why in the previous sutra 2.15, Patanjali told us about Parinama Duhkha, Tapa Duhkha, Samskara Duhkha, and added by Gunavritti Virodha, the Duhkha of the nature of Gunavritti Virodham. the contrariety of sattva, rajatama gunas, they also contribute as a factor for Duhkham. So that we have gone in detail about Parinama Duhkha, Tapa Duhkha, Samskara Duhkha, and Gunavritti Virodhatmaka Duhkha. So we don't have to go once again into it because just now we have concluded that. But then we should also recall that we have also considered another dimension of Duhkha, which is called dhibhautika Duhkham, didaivikam Duhkham, and adhyatmika Duhkham. So this was also considered on an earlier occasion, and we need to have memory, recollection of that as well. That there are adhibhautika dukhas, adidaivika dukhas, adhyatmika dukhas. The philosophy mentions about Trividha Duhkam, Trividha Tapam, Tapatraya. So what are these Tapatrayas? These Tapatrayas are adidaivika, adhyatmika Duhkham. So that was also considered on an earlier occasion. We classified as to what is adhibhautikam, what is adidaivikam, what is adhyatmikam. So Duhkha is also analyzed in this particular dimension, and this is called Trividha Duhkha. Of course, the yogis also identify the Trividha Duhkhas, and they want to have measures against Trividha Duhkhas. They want to have prevention of Trividha Duhkhas, mitigation of Trividha Duhkhas, as far as possible, mitigate it, avoid it. And also they get vexed, or even if they don't get vexed, tormented, yet they have this. You should recall that we had considered in case of a yogi, yogi doesn't have these sorrows. He is not sorrowed by sorrows. The sorrows are there. It is not proper to say that the yogis don't have sorrows at all. Sorrows are there. But the wisdom doesn't give sorrows out of sorrows. So that's a factor where yogi scores over, gnani scores over, spiritually evolved people score over, mahanubhavas score over. That sorrows are there, but they are not sorrowed. So as long as there is incarnation, human body, or whatever kind of incarnation, the sorrow is there. But with respect to someone who is also referred to in Adhyatma as vanamukta, accomplished jnani, accomplished in Adhyatma, Paramartha, the sorrows are there, but he is not sorrowed. Yogi is not sorrowed, and this also be considered. So when the yogi is not sorrowed, it doesn't mean there are no sorrows. The sorrows are reality of this world. If you are in this world, if you are in this Chaturdasha Bhuvanas, if you are somewhere in the Chaturdasha Bhuvanas, the 14 Bhuvanas, the sorrows are there. It's only possible to have a condition that you are not sorrowed. And this is what the Paramartha does, Adhyatma does. It doesn't prevent the sorrows. There is a prevention of a condition whereby one will not be sorrowed. Because sorrows is reality of this physical world. Be that this plane, terrestrial, or be that any celestial plane or infernal plane, the sorrows is reality. It is permeating and subsuming the entire Chaturdasha Bhuvanas, Trailokya and Chaturdasha Bhuvanas. But one who is evolved sufficiently in a paramartha, then will not be sorrowed. So this also needs to be well understood, that these are not measures against sorrows, because we cannot be taking measures against the sorrows absolutely. The sorrows are part of reality. If you are alive, you have sorrows. If you are in any of the worlds where the living beings live, you are going to have sorrows. But it is only possible that you won't be sorrowed. And this is what the Paramartha does. This is the endowment of Paramartha. The sorrows are not kept at bay, but the sorrowness is kept at bay. A condition that one is sorrowed is kept at bay. Sorrows are not kept at bay. Anyway, so we consider the dhibhautika, didaivika, adhyatmika Duhkham, Trividha Duhkham, which is subject matter of philosophies. And they deal with, so Paramartha, Laukika, Paramartha, it considers the Trividha tapas. So, we need to be sufficiently clear about what is exactly adhibhautika Duhkham, adidaivika Duhkham and adhyatmika Duhkham. So that is another classification. We need to be also aware of another classification, which is with regards to particularly human beings, Sharira Duhkham and Manasika Duhkham. Then Manasika Duhkham is also subdivided. The Duhkham of the Buddhi, Duhkham of Manas, Duhkham of Ahankara, and sometimes it is classified into four: Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chittam. So they all have their sorrows. They all have their dukhas. It should be noted here that between Sharira Duhkha and Manasika Duhkha is fourfold or threefold, as just now explained. Sharira Duhkham has a characteristic to be distinct from Manasika Duhkha or Chaitika Duhkha. Sharirika Duhkha is common to everyone, from innocent child to wise and sagacious human being. For example, if you pinch a baby, it is going to be Duhkham. The baby is sorrowed by a pinch. Now this act of pinching or the pinch is also painful for one who is grown up. It might be of lesser magnitude, but except for some exception, everyone feels the prick is a prick, the pinch is a prick, pinch is a pain. It might be mild, that it can be easily taken to stride, but yet it is a pain. Wise man also gets the pain. So between the child and adult, the difference is that the child is oversensitive to the pain and it suffers a lot and it immediately starts crying. An adult will not be crying. So adult is able to put up with that pain and can be not suffering. It is pain but doesn't suffer. The pinch that is given to baby, if the same magnitude pinch is given to you, it is pain. It is to be classed as pain, but it is not painful. It doesn't pain you. It doesn't pain you that you should end up in tantrums. But the baby will be pained to the extent that it will have tantrums. It will cry. It will loudly cry. It will cry for quite some time. So the child is easily pained. Adult is not easily pained. However, it is pain for both of them. So just as what is painful for a baby is not painful for an adult, although it is a pain. It is pain but not painful. Similarly, in wisdom, what is painful for adult is not painful for a wise one, because all adults are not necessarily wise. So when there is spiritual wisdom, it won't be painful. However, it is a pain. So just as I said that there can be sorrow, but that will not be sorrowing a wise man. So sorrow without sorrow. It is no doubt sorrow, but it doesn't sorrow a wise man. The sorrow doesn't sorrow a wise man like a pain doesn't pain an adult. What is pain for a child? It doesn't pain an adult, although it is a pain. It is a pain which is not paining. So with regards to body, you might be stupid or wise, extremely doltish and stupid or extremely wise. But certain body pains are common. It will be pain for both. It may not be paining for someone. That's a different thing. And we do not want that the pain is never paining. It could be hyponeurosis. It could be a disease. That there is no pain sensation. And that is dangerous. There won't be defense mechanism. If one doesn't have pain sensation at all, it would be a disease. And we don't want to have it, because then we won't have defense mechanism in place. So we want pains, so that our defense mechanism will be on toes and will be operative. So the pain and pain sensation and painfulness have to be understood here conceptually. The point is, in case of body, the paining object will be same, whether it is innocent child, tender child, innocent child or ignorant child, ignorant person, not ignorant person, sensitive person, sensible person. The pain will be there. It is common. What pains a child also will be a pain for adult, but may not be paining, but it's a pain. Then what is paining an adult will be pain for a wise man, but will not be paining wise man. Just as a prick is not paining adult as it is paining a child. So between adult and a wise one, it will be paining an adult, but will not be paining a wise man. So the point that I want to put across, that the body pains are common. Man, woman, young, old, innocent infant baby, to child, to grown one. The example is a pinch. The pinch is going to be a paining agent for anyone. But when one may not be pained by it. Like adults are able to put up with the pain and they take it easily to their stride, and it really doesn't torment them as much as it torments a child. A prick will torment a child, it may not torment you. However, a prick to a body is always a pain. So be that body of stupid or wise or intelligent or wise, very wise one spiritually. So from innocent child to spiritually wise, and from doltish and stupid man to spiritually wise person. That paining agent will be common. However, the pain may not be felt. Strangely, with regards to our body, we should understand sometimes the pain, which is generally considered as pain, like as I said, example of pinch. The pinching is always a pain. It is always paining or painful, but sometimes it is not because of some problem on the dermis. You feel fine. Suppose you have a lot of itching sensation, unbearable sensation, then the pinch is sometimes comfortable and you feel little better by a strong pinch. Now, it's not that the pinch is not painful. Compared to itching sensation or some other uncomfortable sensation, the pinch is far better. Anyway, that regards the body. So what is paining to child might be paining to grown-up one, elderly one. What is pain to a child could be pain for a grown-up one with regards to body. But with regards to mind, this is not the case. What pains the child may not be paining the grown-up at all. It may not be paining object at all for a grown-up one. What is paining a child? Somebody grabs a toy from the hands of the baby. It's a painful thing. The child of the mind of the child is pained because somebody has taken away the toy with which the child was playing. Or somebody tries to snatch a chocolate from the hands of the baby, the mind of the baby will be hurt. But it may not be hurting the mind of a grown-up one. And then what are pains to child? As far as the mind is concerned, is one thing. And then what is pain to a grown-up person is another thing, unlike the case of body. In case of body, it is common. What is paining a body of a baby and body of a grown-up will be common. Burn is paining to a body, whether it is baby or whether it is grown-up. Or even if somebody is a wise person. If you had got burned to your hand or somewhere, some part of the body, the burning is going to be a pain, no doubt about it. So it pains anybody's body. But with regards to mind, it is more flexible thing. For mind, it is a different experience altogether. So it is to be considered here as to what is painful for a child and what is painful for a little grown up with regards to mind. I am speaking regards to mind. And then what is painful for a mind of a grown up one? What is pain of mind for an adult? What is painful for a mind of one who has come to age? They will be different things. So much so that what is pleasure of mind for one person might be pain of mind for another person and vice versa. what is pain of mind for a materialistic person and what is pain of mind for a spiritually inclined person will be two different things. The pain of a materialistic person may not be at all pain for spiritualistic person, or what is pain for a spiritually inclined person may not be a pain for materialistic person. So the pain object and pain concept is going to radically change when it is on the plane of mind. So the pain concept is very flexible when we see it in the light of pain of mind. And you should recall that pain of mind is multifaceted, multi-headed, multitudinal. Pain of manas, pain of buddhi, Duhkham of manas, Duhkham of buddhi, Duhkham of ahankar, Duhkham of bhavana, Duhkham of chitta. So, Duhkham will be different with regards to manas, buddhi, ahankar, chitta, bhavana, etc. etc. And the pain can become pleasure and pleasure can become pain as well. What gives pain to me might give you pleasure to you as far as the body is concerned. But this is not with as far as the mind is concerned. This is not true regarding the body. What is pain for my body is also pain for your body, for everybody's body. But that is not with regards to mind. It is very flexible and very subjectivistic. So this also has to be noted. The chaitik Duhkham and sharirika Duhkham. Chaitik Duhkham means it is circumscribing all facets of the mind matter. Manas, buddhi, ahankar, chitta, bhavana, etc. So, the Duhkham with regards to mind matter has to be understood as compared to Duhkham to body matter. Sharira Ghatakam, Sharira Ghatakas and Chaitik Ghatakas, Sharirika factors and Manas Chaitik factors, we will have to understand the Duhkham with all distinctions there. Now, Patanjali is mentioning a precept, Heyam Duhkham Anagatam. So he is telling us something as Duhkha, which is always avoidable. Nobody says, I want Duhkha. People might be wanting others to have Duhkham, but they don't want to have Duhkham for themselves. So that is avoidable class. That's why it is called Heya Paksha. Duhkham is always Heya Paksha for all life, all kinds of life. It is Heya Paksha. Nobody welcomes Duhkha. Nobody welcomes sorrow. Although human beings have a sadistic mentality, they want the sorrows inflicted to others, which is perhaps their joy. They don't want the sorrows for themselves, but they want others to be sorrowed. And they have joy in somebody, a particular person being sorrowed or being in sorrow. So that's called sadistic mentality. But Duhkham is generally Heya Paksha. Now the question is, which Duhkham has been mentioned here? Any kind of Duhkha, all kinds of Duhkha in any time, space, situation, scenario is avoidable. He is of the class of avoidable called Heya Paksha. It is always Heya Paksha. But is Patanjali mentioning some scheme whereby anybody's any kind of pain will be given a measure that it can be kept at bay? No, Patanjali is not doing that. That is why we have to understand the relationship of this sutra, Heyam Duhkham Anagatam. Heyam Duhkham, not anybody's, any kind of dukkha has a reference here. Everybody's any kind of dukkha doesn't have a reference here. And that is why he discussed in previous sutra, Parinama Tapa Samskara Duhkhaihi Gunavritti Virodhacha Duhkham Evam Duhkham Eva Sarvam Vivekinaha. For Vivekis, Duhkham of Vivekis is only being mentioned. Patanjali is not going to mention measures to be taken for pains of innocent babies, children, then the teenagers, the youngsters, the adult ones, the grown-up ones. Of course, Patanjali is going to mention the prevention. What can be prevented? And actually, any kind of sorrow one wants to be prevented. It should be prevented for anyone and everyone. But Patanjali is not going to divulge a scheme that anybody's any kind of pain will be prevented. That will not be good for social order and human order. So Patanjali is not mentioning a kind of trick or idea whereby the Duhkham, avoidable Duhkham, will be kept at bay. Having discussed Parinama Duhkha, Tapa Duhkha, Samskara Duhkha, Gunavritti Virodhatmak Duhkha, now you have to understand this sutra in the light of that. He is not going to mention how the sorrows can be avoided by any Tom, Dick and Harry having any kind of sorrow. That is not being mentioned. So do not be looking at this sutra for solutions, that if you are a Tom, Dick and Harry and you have any kind of sorrow, Patanjali is going to give you idea, a trick to avoid it. No, that's not the case. A Vivekis, Duhkha of a Viveki, what are his sorrows? He may not be sorrowed, but there are sorrows. And those sorrows are to be avoided. And the measures for that will be mentioned. And it will be mentioned that that sorrow is avoidable. Any sorrow should not be avoidable, because otherwise, you see, in the criminal world, you can be doing any criminal act and then you want to escape punishment. No criminal would say willingly, voluntarily say that I have committed a crime and therefore punish me. Everyone will try to have the defense. All the criminals in the court of law always have something in defense. There will be a lawyer given to them to defend them. So there will be defensing lawyer representing a criminal. But then we won't want the criminals to go unpunished, unscathed. We want them to be punished. They should be punished. Very rightfully, they must be punished. Now that's a sorrow. For them to get punished is a sorrow. But prevention of such sorrow is not being mentioned, because such prevention should not be available. To have proper order in the society or proper order in human conduct, the punishments must be in place. They should be there. The sorrows must be there. The cost for their carelessness, the cost for their sinning, the cost for their blunders must be there. Blunders must cost. Crimes must cost. So, Patanjali is not going to mention any loophole whereby you can escape the pain that is unavoidable for you. It is going to come. And then he is not saying that pain is avoidable. So any kind of pain is not being considered here. Every kind of pain is not being considered here. When the prevention is going to be mentioned, because that is the Heya Paksha. Heya Paksha means avoidable. So how to escape and avoid the pain is going to be mentioned hereafter. But then that doesn't mean that any kind of pain of anyone and everyone is being mentioned. It is only that class of pain or the pain of that person who is Gnani, Viveki. What is sorrow for him? Being a Viveki. Now that only is being tackled and not your pain and my pain. Because usually this sutra in the times of global popularization of yoga, we say that Patanjali is mentioning some important precept of the nature of prevention is better than cure. You don't need Patanjali to tell you this, that prevention is better than cure. You and me can also tell that. We are enough to say that. You and me are enough to be amplifying that prevention is better than cure. And unfortunately, this is what is an obsessional idea. In our time, yoga practitioners, they think that yoga is being mentioned. With that wisdom, prevention is better than cure. And therefore, many of them look at the subject matter of yoga today. Cure of what? Diseases. As if diseases are only sorrows. Is that true? That only a disease is a sorrow for you? Is there no sorrow apart from any disease from the point of view of medical pathology? There are so many sorrows which are not circumscribed in your medical pathology. For certain sorrows of you can't go to a physician and ask for a solution. Is that right? We have so many kinds of sorrows. Sometimes we consult a wise man. Sometimes we consult even astrologers. There are certain sorrows that you cannot be going to a physician or a Vaidya. So there are certain pathological conditions of the body for which you can go to a physician or doctor. For every problem of you, every pain of you cannot be going to a doctor. For certain pains of you need to take consultancy from some other people. So, there are so many kinds of dukkha, and it is usually taken as Heyam Duhkham Anagatam, means diseases of body, as if that is only a sorrow for mankind. A disease occurring to body is only pain for human being. That's not the case. There are so many sorrows, Duhkham, pains, which have nothing to do with pathology of the body. The pathological investigations will not tell you why you have pain in you. If it is emotional pain, mental pain, if you are hurt in your psyche consciousness, no pathological tests will divulge you why you have this pain. Yet you have a pain. But in case if it is something malady of the body, then pathology will tell you why you have this disease or this kind of pain. So radiology, pathology will tell you that this is why you have the pain. You have slip disc, you have herniation or arthritis, and that's why you have got body pain. But we have pains far beyond the pains of body. Duhkham is there far beyond Duhkham of the body. But this sutra has been brought in by modern yoga, which is obsessed with the idea of remedial yoga, as if yoga is going to cure all remedies, going to give all remedies for all maladies of the body. It has become a pathy today. And moreover, by doing yoga, or what is today yoga in the sense, some physical exercises and some pranayamas, remedies are offered through asana and pranayam today. Remedies are offered today by asana, pranayam, and maybe some meditation, which is not a dhyana, it is meditation. And by yoga, there is prevention. So on the plane of body, you get immunity. Similarly, you develop some immunity on the plane of mind, that your mind doesn't easily suffer. Little insulation comes to mind, and therefore, by doing yoga, you are little mentally strong. If you are mentally strong, you are not vulnerable to mental diseases or psychic diseases. So it will keep your mind and psyche strong. So you will prevent. It will be a preventive measure that problems will not come to you as easily as otherwise they could come when you are totally disinsulated. So practicing yoga that is taught today will give you some insulations whereby you will be preventing certain problems which otherwise you would be victim of those problems, not having taken up to yoga. We will suffer from body malady, mental maladies, etc. And therefore they say, come to yoga. If you have problem, come to yoga, we will cure you. If you don't have disease, come to us still, and we will see that you are having a preventive measures, that the disease will not occur to you. But it is not true that the body will be disease free. The body at some point in time is going to have some problems. This is the reality of the body. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, duhkham, dosham. This is absolute reality about this, any embodiment. Not only human embodiment, any body, any embodiment of any living creature, it is not going to escape janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, dukkha, dosha. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita instructs us in the 13th chapter, janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, dukkha, dosha, anudarshanam. Keep constantly revisiting these sites. Always bear in this mind that you cannot escape janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, dukkha, dosha. So the body is not going to escape. Sooner or later, these things are going to engulf the body. That's the reality of any body. You cannot have body proof. You cannot have a body which has no janma mrityu, which doesn't have birth and death. And there is always a pain of birth and death. The first thing the baby does after taking birth is that it cries. Why does it cry? Does it cry because it is happy? There is some pain. Having taken birth, there is dukkham of taking birth. And there is needless to tell you about Duhkham of death. The death is always painful. There is no need to tell you about the Duhkham of death. So Janma has a Duhkha, Mrityu has a Duhkha, the Jara, decay has a Duhkha. Nobody says, I am decaying but I am happy. Disease is Duhkha. Nobody says, I got disease but I am not in Duhkha. Because it is disease, and disease is dis-ease. Now, dis-ease cannot be ease and comfort, because it is dis-ease. So, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Duhkham. Apart from these, as we saw, marriage is a body, we have so many other kinds of pains, emotional pain, mental pain. Duhkham will come in some form or the other. It is not that the only body is locus of pain, and not that there is no pain outside the locus of body. There is so much of pain beyond body. And then dosha, defects and limitations. No body is without any limitation. There will be some sort of limitation, some kind of limitation for every body, physical manifestation of a life. There is always some defect. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita says we must constantly ponder over anudarshanam, revisit and often think over this, that you cannot be free from Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Duhkha and Dosha. So start identifying what is the sorrow of taking birth, what is sorrow of living, what is sorrow of life, what is the sorrow of death, what kind of sorrows will come in life, what is the sorrow on account of limitation, what is the sorrow on account of having defects. No human being is without defects. No creature is without defects. There are always defects. So, anudarshanam, so constantly ponder over it, so that you will be convinced that we need to take a measure against this. Then you will know what this life is also. What is this life all about? So when you look at all the dimensions of life, and to look at all dimensions of life, this has been mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Duhkha, Doshanu, Darshanam. If you want to be in the Adhyatmic path, spiritual path, you must revisit this site often and read it often, consider it often, ponder over it often. How miserable it is to be an embodied person on account of having taken birth. What is it that we are going to counter? So that then you will feel a need for moksham, amrutatvam. You should know that you are a mortal, we are all mortals. So when we know that mortality is painful, mortality is something agonizing, then only we will think of immortality, amrutatvam. Then perhaps we will make a pursuit towards amrutatvam, we will make take measures for moksham, so that we can escape this janma mrityu, deyadharanam, taking embodiments. So that's how you will be open out a channel, a corridor for what is called as paramartha. Not having convinced about janma mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha, dosha, you will not be opting for paramartha, and that too with sufficient fervor. Therefore, revisit this site, anudarshanam, constantly look at it, constantly think over it. how this mortality is a problem, how the embodied state of life is a problem. The problem in some kind of the other is going to be there for any form of embodiment. By being tiny, microscopic life form to elephant and blue whale, any kind of body, large, small to large, strong to weak, predator class to prey class, it's going to have problems. So, we must constantly ponder over and try to understand the sorrow factor with a great amount of depth. Then only the spiritual pursuit will become meaningful. Anyway, so Patanjali is mentioning Heyam Duhkham. Now, which Duhkha? Is he mentioning that when you grab a chocolate from the hands of a child, it cries and it has a Duhkham? Is Patanjali going to mention that prevention of that? He is not going to mention prevention of that. He is not going to mention the prevention of bodily maladies, which are unescapable. If you have a body, you are going to have disease, decay, death, etc. You can't be saying that I have taken birth, will never die. I have taken birth, will but never have any disease or defect or shortcoming. There is always be a shortcoming. By being human beings, we cannot escape certain situations, whereas the birds can immediately take a flight. They fly up and they escape. You can't fly. You are prey to particular condition because you can't fly. You could not fly. Therefore, you became a victim. The bird did not become victim because the bird flew. So, there is always a limitation to any kind of body. So, the point is, Patanjali is not going to mention solutions to problems of you and me and everyone, any Tom, Dick and Harry, any kind of pain and every kind of pain of anybody and everybody. He is not going to mention that. He is only going to mention the pain that is for a viveki. The parinama dukkha, tapa dukkha, samskara dukkha, gunavritti virodhatmak dukkha is only pain for him. Any dishonor, any loss is not going to be pain for him. Like we have pain in material loss. If you have lost your money, somebody has robbed you, you have sorrow. You don't say, I am happy, I am robbed. So he is not going to consider all those sorrows which are coming in so many ways. So you and me have endless sorrows. But for a wise man, it is tapered to dukkha only of the nature of what is called as parinama dukkha, tapa dukkha, samskara dukkha, gunavritti virodhatmak dukkha. So there are only 4 kinds of sorrows for a viveki, and he is being considered. His sorrows are being considered, and not the sorrows which come in day-to-day life for all of us, moment to moment. Some sorrow or the other is either engulfing us or is right at our doorsteps. It can enter any time. So, Duhkham, we should understand the limited meaning that is there for sutra here. That particular Duhkha, which has been just now mentioned in the previous sutra. So, that is to be prevented. That is preventable. That is avoidable. Otherwise, Yogi is not afraid of any kind of sorrow, like you very well know. that someone like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharshi, they had tumors and cancers. They did not bother about having a tumor or cancer. Is that our case? If you and me have a cancer here and there, are we going to be not bothering about it? If you have a tumor here and there, are we going to be not bothering about it? We are certainly going to bother about it, but Patanjali is not mentioning the Duhkham of tumor and cancer to you and me. But then what is really problematic? As we have just now seen in the life of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Ramana Maharshi, those were not sorrows. Cancers were not sorrows. Howsoever painful cancers, they were not sorrows. Howso painful tumors, they were not sorrows. Then what was the sorrow? Those sorrows are being considered in this sutra. And not your and mine sorrows. Not the sorrows of we worms in bio world, bifooted animals like you and me. Our sorrows are not being considered here. So materialistic person or a cupid person, frolicsome person, but enjoying the worldly pleasures, such a person is not being circumscribed by showing some kind of preventives for the sorrows. So particular kind of dukkha is considered at the rung of a yogi who is called viveki in the previous sutra, who only is considering the parinama dukkha, tapa dukkha, samskara dukkha, gunavrittiyatmak dukkha, not the sharirik dukkha and manasik dukkha, not the vyadhyatmaka dukkha, and not the bhavanika dukkha that we counter in the world, emotional pain, mental pain, ego pain. We want to be escaping from these kinds of offensives which might be launched on us. Somebody insulting you. We don't want that we should be insulted. We are hurt if we are insulted. We are hurt if we are offended. So what is that pain we are looking for? And now do not consult Patanjali Yoga Sutra to be having some prevention of the pain that you are facing. So that's from the theoretical perspective I am telling you. Patanjali is considering only particular class of pain and the pain of a particular person on a particular rung and hierarchy who is called viveki. Who is called viveki? Only that person is being considered, and not you and me in this sutra. However, yoga is such a magnanimous subject. It is such a magnanimous subject. It circumscribes all kinds of sorrows for everyone, you and me, although not aiming at that. Yoga doesn't aiming at solving our problems, but our problems are solved by being in yoga. That's the magnanimity of yoga. Not that we don't have solutions to our problems in Patanjali's text. But Patanjali is mentioning yoga, and yoga always offers whatever problems, tiniest problems, minutest problems, insignificant problems from wisdom point of view also, yes, they will be tackled. Because its radius of operation is so large, yoga's radius of operation is so large that even our mundane problems, problems of practical life, problems of being alive, problems of being a mortal, problems of being a human being are solved by yoga. It is a tree that gives shadow, and shadow gives you comfort always. So it will give you the shadow of comfort And alleviation of your pain will be there once you take recourse to yoga. However, yoga is not meant for that. But it all happens by yoga. It is a kalpa vruksha. Yoga is a kalpa vruksha, described as kalpa vruksha, hailed as kalpa vruksha. Kalpa vruksha doesn't aim at fulfilling all your desires. But by being under kalpa vruksha, your desires are fulfilled. Kalpa vruksha is not meant for that. But you getting underneath, it will fulfill everything, because its radius of operation is so large, so huge, so astronomical that your problems and my problems will be circumscribed by it. But that doesn't mean the yoga is there to attend to our problems. So yoga is not meant for attending our problems, but its radius of operation is so great that it attends to our problems get attended, more precisely, rather than it attending. It doesn't attend. Problems are attended by yoga. Yoga doesn't attend to our problems. Yoga is attending to the problems of Viveki, who is on the paramarthic plane of life, and that too on a higher rung of it. So yoga is actually developing a scheme, but that just coming under the shadow of yoga, our problems are going to be attended. Yoga is not attending, but the problems will be attended to. This is the magnanimity of yoga. So we, even mundane people, got stuck deeply, sunk in mundane mire, yet we can take recourse to yoga. Because yoga offers, because of its magnanimity and its huge operative radius, it will circumscribe our problems. But it is not there to be circumscribing our problems, but it will circumscribe our problems. That's how we can take recourse to yoga, although we are not Vivekis, although we are not on that rung, on that level, on that hierarchy, yet we can take recourse to it. That's how the God is. The God is not there to attend to your problems. But you taking recourse to God, the problems will be attended to. That's how the God is. And that's how yoga is. So, Heyam Duhkham Anagatam. So, Patanjali is speaking about avoiding Duhkham. Though he is going to mention scheme for avoidance of Duhkha of Viveki, however, great amount of our Duhkha is also attended to by we taking recourse to our yoga, yoga of our level. Adhama adhikaris. Adhama adhama, not even adhikaris, anadhikaris. We are anadhikaris, then we will become adhikaris, and then we will become adhamadhikaris, and then we will become madhyamadhikaris, and then we will become uttamadhikaris. So where Patanjali is mentioning this is in madhyamadhikari, the Duhkham of not you and me, Duhkham of madhyamadhikari yogi, because this is coming in sadhana pada. If you don't lose advertence on it, you will get to know. But then it is a tree, and therefore we are going to get the benefit of shadow. The birds can live on the tree, make living on the tree. We'll eat something from the tree. We can just take shadow from the tree. All those trees which are there, it's not that we'll be eating the leaves of the tree. We can just take shadow. We can get the shadow, which is the great solace. While the birds might be eating something from the tree, the worm will be eating the leaves of the tree. So they live on the tree, they make living on the tree. We don't live on the tree, we don't make living from the tree, but however we can get shadow, because the tree casts a shadow under it. So yoga casts a shadow under it, and when we get under it, we can get the shadow, so we get some solace. So that's an incidental effect. Yes, the diseases are countered by yoga. There is no point in saying today that yoga is not a pathy, and yoga doesn't offer any solutions to your physical maladies, physical problems, physical diseases, mental problems, mental maladies. It does. But point to be noted, it is not meant for that, but it does. It can do. We taking recourse to our level of yoga, it will serve that purpose that we are looking for. However, yoga in its scheming, it is not meant for that. But as I said repeatedly, yoga has such a huge radius of operations or operative radius that it will circumscribe our problems too, and therefore we are taking recourse to yoga. Therefore, yoga will be a remedy, although it doesn't mean to be a remedy. It is not for the sake of remedy, but it will remedy. It can be remedying your problems to a very great extent. It can be preventing your problems to great extent. However, it is not there to be remedying and preventing, but they will be remedied and prevented. So, understand the thing in perspective here. So, what sorrows are countered? The sorrows of madhyamadhikari, for whom parinam is dukkha, samskar is dukkha, tapa is dukkha, gunatraya virodha is dukkha. That is not our dukkha. We don't bother about parinama. We don't even bother about tapatrayas. Then yet we have sorrows. Our sorrows are of a very lower plane, and we are harassed and tormented by those sorrows which are actually no sorrows. Like in the case of wise man, for a wise man, our sorrows are no sorrows. The child's sorrows are no sorrows for us. Somebody taking away the toy of a child has sorrow. Somebody grabs the chocolate of the child, it has a sorrow. Now, our sorrows are not like that. So just as what is child and child sorrow for us, and we say there is no sorrow. The sorrow is there for child because it is innocent, it is ignorant, it is child, it is childish, and therefore it has a sorrow. When it overcomes that stage of being a child, it will not have a sorrow. So that is no sorrow. What is sorrow for a child? For which it cries from top of its voice, from bottom of the belly, pit of the belly, it cries so loud. We fail to understand why it is crying so much. So baby pain is a big pain for a baby. And the baby pain is a baby pain for you and me. It doesn't pain us. So also the Duhkham of you and me are no Duhkha of a yogi who is spoken about here. Madhyamadhikari yogi, who is a kriya yogi, who is a jnana yogi, who is a karma yogi, who is a bhakti yogi. What are his sorrows? We need to imagine what must be the sorrows of them. And that is no sorrow for us. In bhakti, the bhakta is not able to get the expected union with the divinity, and that is why it is sorrow for him, and that is no sorrow for us. We don't look for our unification with the divinity, and not being unified with the divinity is no sorrow for you and me, but for a bhakta, that's a great sorrow. That's a sorrow, not getting united with divinity. So the sorrow of a jnani, karmi, bhakta, yogi will be different. That is being tackled textually. However, we have something here. It is because the tree of yoga has such a huge umbrella which casts such a huge shadow under it that all of us can get some solace. So, which dukkha is being mentioned here? Not your dukkha by somebody pinching you, somebody pricking you, somebody disrespecting you, somebody offending you, somebody humiliating you. You get sorrow by all that. That is not being mentioned here. This should be understood. So that is understanding the thing in perspective. And then he says, anagatam. Heyam Duhkham anagatam. That means he is telling about the Duhkham agatam, Duhkham anagatam, and Duhkham which has gone into latency. Atitam. So there is Atita Dukkha, Vartamana Dukkha, Anagata Dukkha with reference to time. Atita means gone by. Vartamana means mounted on the time, the present time. And Anagata means yet to come. So Dukkha gone by, Dukkha present, and Dukkha yet to come. This is another classification that Patanjali is implying, and he says only the Dukkha yet to come is to be considered avoidable, and that only can be avoided. You can't be avoiding the pain which has gone by because you already have experienced. Then he tells us you can't be really finding escape from the pain of the present moment because it is already mounted and you are already experiencing it. The pain that might come after in a prospective time may not come because of your measure of swallowing a pill, painkiller. If you have taken a painkiller because your body is paining, the pain that is going to come from onward moments will be slowly tapered and will be gone. Not the present moment pain is countered by swallowing a pill. Impending pain is countered by swallowing a pain-killing drug or taking a pain-killing pill. And therefore, Atita Dukkham, Vartamana Dukkham, Anagata Dukkham. These also three have to be understood. So, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. Heyam, avoided, avoidable class. Which will be avoided, which should be avoided, or which can be avoided. That is Heyam. Which should be avoided, which can be avoided, which must be avoided. Ideally, that's called Heyam. Then Duhkham. And we try to have little orientation to the concept of Duhkham. Which Duhkham? Parinama Tapa Samskara Duhkha Gunavr Virodhatmak Duhkha. The four kinds of Duhkha are only considered. And now Anagatam. Not Agata Duhkha, but Anagata Duhkha. Not Atita Duhkha, but Anagata Duhkha. Not Vartamana Duhkha, but Anagata Duhkham. So, there are Atita, Vartamana, Anagata Duhkha, three kinds of Duhkha again with reference to time. And their particular one is to be mentioned, is to be really considered valid for solutions. You can't have solutions for sorrows already gone by, experienced already. You don't want solutions there because you already have experienced. You don't want to avoid the sorrows because they cannot be avoided. Because they have already gone into latency, you have already experienced. Nor the Vartamana Duhkha needs a solution. It is only Anagata Duhkha which needs a solution. This also is to be understood from this sutra. Anyway, enough for the time being. Namaskar all of you.